Today on the channel, we got the rhythm and we got the blues again with Epic Toys, Greg the Hammer Valentine.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Welcome everyone, Kyle here, and welcome back to the channel for another Epic Toys retro wrestling figure unboxing and review. And today on the channel, we got an interesting one. We've got Greg the Hammer Valentine. But for all your wrestling needs that are not Epic Toys, make sure you're hitting up Ringside Collectibles. Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 10%. Got to get a deal out there. And of course, we're going to do this review like we do all the other reviews on the channel. We're going to take a look at the packaging. We're going to talk about it. We're going to unbox it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to see where it goes from there. And man, oh man, everything's coming up the hammer. Greg Valentine getting a lot of love here in 2023 as we just recently unboxed a Mattel Legends version of this figure. And about a year ago, what is time, as we always say, we did get a Mattel edition of a retro-style Greg Valentine in his Rhythm and Blues attire. So for many years, we never got a Rhythm and Blues Greg Hammer Valentine figure. Really, the only one we ever had was the Jakks Classic Superstars. Now, all of a sudden, bam, we're getting all of Greg Valentine in his dyed black hair persona. And I'm here for it. I'm definitely here for it. But this one always was a little confusing to me because we knew Mattel had one coming out, and it was a little interesting why Epic Toys, and it was Cella Toys at the time, was releasing one right on the heels of that about the same time. Well, we know about the Cella merger, or I should say buyout from Epic Toys. It gets convoluted, it gets confusing, as we do know. But very interesting to get another Greg Hammer Valentine. Of course, we'll compare the two later on in this video, as we always do. But let's look at the packaging first. Let's talk through it, go through everything here. Now, we got Greg the Hammer on the nice card there in the bubble, looking good. No mistaking it. It's Greg the Hammer Valentine from his Rhythm and Blues days. Always love the card art on these. Really does feel very Hasbro-esque. Of course, all these toy lines, Zombie Sailor, Hasbro Toys, all these are a love letter, of course, to the old retro Hasbro figures that we grew up with, or at least I grew up with back in the day. We do got the little blurb down here. Tradition continues. I can't remember if Epic Toys had this before or if that's new, but I really like that tagline on here. It looks like the Hasbro writing, but it says tradition continues. Gives you the warm fuzzies in a lot of ways. You got Greg the Hammer Valentine right there. You got Epic Toys down at the bottom. Official up here. And of course, we already talked about the figure in the package. Then on the back, got a big old cross sell. We got a tail of the tape. We got a lot going on back here. So let's look what's going on. It does say collect them all. Recently, we just found out about this Bobby the Brain Heenan here. Looking good, Bobby the Brain. Atsushi Onita looking good as well in the old Jake Roberts pose. Demolition, oh man, face paint, get him here. I'm all about the Demolition figures. Missy Hyatt, a female, will be interesting. Diamond Dallas Page as well. Killer Bees, another tag team. And then speaking of tag teams, the Powers of Pain already up for pre-order, or already closed pre-order. We got Eddie Guerrero and we got Adrian Street. So a lot of figures coming down the pipeline from Epic Toys here. I'm definitely all in, but it's getting to the point where, man, there's almost too much retros to collect. I'm very excited about some of these other ones. Maybe I'll wait for a deal. We'll see what ends up happening there. But it does say on the back, rock and roll, Greg Valentine. No Rhythm and Blues anywhere on here. I'm sure legal reasons about that. It says height 6 foot tall, 243 pounds. Origin, Seattle, Washington. It says this hammer was a jammer from the start. So it only made sense when this former IC and Tag Team Champion picked up his guitar and embarked on a honky-tonk journey. I like what they did there. And it says Wrestling Megastars officially licensed Epic Toys. So very interesting. Greg Valentine, what does his deal look like with the WWE and the Mattel Legends contracts, all that kind of stuff? Because it's interesting, we're getting WWE figures and we're getting these. Who knows what's going on exactly, but I'm imagining they're doing things by the rights of the law, you would hope at least. I'm going to pull them off the card right here. Slides right off of there very easily to remove. I like the bubble, nice and tight. Wasn't going to fall off on me or anything else. Greg Valentine looking nice right there on the card. How about that? See you later. Goodbye. Now we get down to business with Greg the Hammer Valentine. We're going to take a look at this guitar first, and man, oh man, I absolutely love this. This thing is what we need from Mattel. I don't care if we're talking Mattel Retro line or we're talking Mattel Elites. It's time we get a guitar that doesn't break away, that doesn't crumble in your hands all the time. Absolutely love this guitar here, and it really does remind me a lot of the old school Honky Tonk Man guitar from the old Hasbro days. So man, can't get much better than this guitar. A nice weight to this guitar as well. It does not feel cheap at all. Very, very nice. You got it, of course, an acoustic guitar. You got the little hammer down here looking good. A little heart up top for Valentine. Looking really, really nice. You got the frets. You got everything looking really good. 6 strings. You know, sometimes we get these guitars, they have 3 or 4 strings, and it looks kind of goofy. This actually looks like a real guitar. The only thing it's missing is the strings that go over the hole there. But I can look past that. But a very, very good guitar. Would love to see this with other Mattel lines in the future because they do give us the Elite guitar with the Mattel Retros. Just doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. This definitely works for me. So kudos to that. Now we get down to business. We get down to the hammer here. And first thing you notice is it's kind of like old fat Elvis is kind of what it reminds me of. Greg Valentine, a little thicker in the face, big old glasses going on here from the fat Elvis days there. Hair all slicked back in black, looking good. But it definitely, I think you see this. I know this is Greg the Hammer Valentine immediately. Even if you take the hammer and the Greg off here, somebody handed me this. Who is this? I would say, well, that's Greg the Hammer Valentine from Rhythm and Blues. So I think they got that working here. It feels and looks like a retro, but it definitely feels different than your Zombie Sailors and your Mattel ones, for instance, here. Feels a little bit more dense, a little bit more heavy here. It feels more statue-esque, if that makes sense, compared to Mattel, which feel a little bit more kiddie, but they do have the action figures, or action features, I should say, where this has 0 action features to it. It is just an action figure, and of course the arms do go all the way around on this one. You do get waist articulation, a little bit of head movement, and that is it. That is all the articulation you get. No trigger system, anything like that. That's to be accustomed with a lot of these retro figures. Also, no peg hole on the bottom, so you can't use a stand for these, anything like that, so none of that. But you do get the white boots on him with the GV logo, looking good. Greg Valentine, of course. It does say Greg on the front of the trunks. Somebody fact check this if they want. He stole these from one Greg Gagne. Yes, Greg Gagne, he stole these from. Shows Greg there. He said, yeah, it works for me. My name's Greg, too. I can use those. Who knows? I might be making that up. On the back, only the lonely, like a young Roy Orbison. Was he kind of supposed to be like Roy Orbison to Elvis, Honky Tonk Man? Maybe that was the case there. That's what they should have done. I'm more of a Carl Perkins guy myself. I'm a Carl Perkins guy through and through. That's the real man there. Elvis, move over. Carl coming in. Don't be stealing his blue suede shoes, that's for sure. All day long, I love me some Carl Perkins. But you got the hammer and Greg, you got the musical notes throughout, you got the wings on the back, nice jacket, looking like Greg the Hammer Valentine from his Rhythm and Blues days. Should make sure, hopefully this guitar fits in the hand. What do you know, fits in the hand perfectly, doesn't fall out, really, well, it falls out eventually, but you got to work towards it. You got to work towards it, but fits pretty good right here, fits really good. Looking back at the head again, it could be improved a little bit. It's not identical Greg the Hammer Valentine, but man, close enough to be dangerous. There's no doubt about it. Just a really fun figure here. The problem with this figure is I think a lot of people are going to be happy with the Mattel one, especially at a much cheaper price point, that maybe they didn't jump in on this one. And I got to imagine that would be the case about any kind of figure, really, back in the day. But we're going to do some comparisons right here. OG Honky Tonk Man Hasbro. Boy, that looks pretty good together. I got to admit, that looks pretty good together right here. You got Roy Orbison and Elvis back together once again. How about that? It's the class of 55. Class of 55, ready to go. But we do got Greg the Hammer Valentine, the Mattel one. And this one is nice. It just feels like the proportions are way too big. It's just, he's too big. Honestly, you put this one, you put Honky Tonk Man in the middle. Honky Tonk Man scales with the Epic Toys one a lot more than the Mattel Retro one, which seems kind of strange. I don't know, maybe it shouldn't, but it does seem strange to me. I like what this one looks like. I like the articulation on it. I like it has the action feature, but I like the size and feel of this, and no doubt I 100 times more like the guitar on this one than this one. So, looks interesting together. There's no doubt about it. Very interesting. It really is choose which Hammer Valentine you like better. Be interested to hear in the comment section which Greg the Hammer Valentine you guys prefer between these two. If you had to choose, and a lot of you guys probably maybe bought both of them, maybe you bought none, or maybe you bought one or the other. Would love to hear which one you like better between these two. And of course, I do got an old school Hasbro custom from back in the day of Greg the Hammer Valentine. Always looking very interesting, this Greg Valentine. Definitely not perfect. It was based on an old school Greg Valentine from, of course, back in the day. I don't know. It definitely needs to be retired from my collection, though. That is the answer to that one. I think this day for this one has come and gone. It's time to move on to greener pastures for the Hasbro Custom. Of course, you got to have the Mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. He's ready to lead the team here. He's ready to move on here with rhythm and blues. You got to have the Colonel with him. There's no doubt about it. And then finally, I figured I'd grab this just for the heck of it. We got the most recent Greg the Hammer Valentine figure right here from the Mattel Legends line. A very fun figure and possibly a top 10 figure of the year for me. Had to put the pen to paper on that. Coming soon, year-end top 10 list, as you guys know, and top 5 list. So be ready for an onslaught of those in November and December, and probably even into January as we move along on the channel here. But a fun one is this Greg Valentine. Not for everybody, probably not made in the quantities of the Mattel, we can imagine that. But really, there's a lot of stuff to like about this one, and I do say this one is a lot better than I expected it to be, and that's always a good day at the office when a figure meets your expectations or beats it like this one does in this case here. So a good version of Greg the Hammer Valentine. I would say it's almost even with the Mattel, maybe even a hair better. I'd have to think about it a little bit, but the sizing and the guitar really pull this one through. It's definitely a good figure. There's no doubt about it. But what say you guys and gals out there in YouTube land? You picking this one up? You passing? You playing the long game? You playing the no game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Of course, you made it this far. Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the old notification bell as we got videos every single day. And then some. We've got 2 YouTube channels going right now, so subscribe to both of those. Don't forget about the Patreon for early access to both channels' videos. Of course, the best way to support the channel, as you guys know, is by being a member of the Patreon. You can also support channel ProWrestlingTees.com, search Kyle Peterson. And don't forget social media, SirPaul64 on the X. And then, of course, Threads and Instagram, _Kyle_Peterson. So for Greg, the Hammer, and the Valentine, I am Kyle. See you guys all real soon.